You did it again. You opened the app without meaning to. You scrolled through someone else's dinner, someone else's vacation, someone else's wedding, and for a moment, without fully realizing it, you started measuring your own life against theirs. You put the phone down. But the thoughts didn't stop. Why can't you stop thinking about what other people are doing? It feels like a flaw, like a weakness you should have outgrown by now. But what if it isn't a flaw at all? What if the part of your brain that fixates on other people's lives is one of the oldest, most sophisticated survival systems in human evolutionary history? The answer is far stranger than you think. Your brain has a dedicated department that does almost nothing but monitor other people. It runs constantly, even when you're completely unaware of it. Neuroscientists call it the default mode network, a constellation of brain regions, including the medial prefrontal cortex and the posterior cingulate cortex, that activates not during focused tasks, but during what looks like rest. When your mind wanders, when you're doing nothing, when you're staring at the ceiling, this network lights up. And where does it go almost every single time? Other people, what they're doing, what they think of you, whether they're doing better than you, whether they remember what you said, whether they noticed what you did. This isn't laziness. It isn't narcissism. It is, at its core, a survival mechanism so fundamental that your brain treats social information with almost the same urgency as it treats food and water. To understand why, you have to go back, a long way back. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, you didn't live in a city. You didn't have an apartment, a salary, or a profile picture. You lived in a group of roughly 50 to 150 people, and that group was the entire world that mattered. Your food came from the group. Your protection from predators and rival groups came from the group. The safety of your children, and therefore the continuation of everything you were, depended entirely on your standing within that group. Here is the hard truth of your ancestors' world. Missing a meal was survivable. Losing a resource was survivable. Getting exiled from the group, falling out of favor, losing alliances, being seen as a threat or a burden or a deceiver, was a death sentence. Not a metaphorical death sentence, a literal one. In that world, knowing what other people were doing wasn't gossip. It wasn't nosiness. It was intelligence that kept you alive. Who had accumulated more resources this season? Who was forming new alliances? And who was being slowly frozen out? Who had made an enemy? And was that enemy likely to become your problem too? Who could be trusted with your children when you couldn't watch them? These weren't abstract social observations. They were the most important variables in the equation of your survival, and your brain developed extraordinary machinery to process them. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar, who spent decades studying the relationship between primate brain size and group complexity, proposed something profound. He argued that the extraordinary expansion of the human neocortex, the outer layer of the brain responsible for higher reasoning, didn't happen primarily because of tool use, or language, or even abstract problem-solving. It happened because other people are hard. Managing relationships within a large group requires a kind of ongoing cognitive labor that is genuinely expensive for a brain to perform. You have to remember not just who someone is, but who they were 3 years ago, what they owe you, what you owe them, how they relate to every other person in the group, and how all of those relationships might shift depending on what happens tomorrow. Dunbar calculated the upper limit of stable social relationships a human can maintain at roughly 150, a figure now widely known as Dunbar's number. Beyond that, the complexity overwhelms the system. Your brain grew, in part, so it could keep track of people. It got bigger because other people were complicated, and getting that complexity wrong was fatal. So, when you find yourself wondering what your coworker's apartment looks like, or why your old friend went quiet, or what your ex is doing with someone new, you are not broken. You are doing exactly what your brain was designed to do. You are running a social intelligence operation that kept your ancestors alive for hundreds of thousands of years. The problem is that the landscape has changed, and your brain hasn't caught up. In 1954, psychologist Leon Festinger proposed something that has since been confirmed by decades of research. He called it social comparison theory. The central idea is this: human beings don't evaluate their own abilities, opinions, or life outcomes against objective standards. They evaluate them by comparing themselves to other people. You don't know if you're doing well in your career by looking at your bank balance in isolation. You know it, or feel like you know it, by comparing your trajectory to the trajectories of people who seem similar to you. In a small tribe, this worked. The people you compared yourself to had similar starting conditions, similar resources, similar constraints. Your comparison benchmarks were realistic and local. The information was genuinely useful. But now, the people your brain is comparing you to include curated versions of influencers with professional photographers and editing teams. They include former classmates whose lives look flawless in photos because the bad days never get posted. They include strangers who have optimized their online presence to project status signals that your social monitoring system processes as real data, because it doesn't know the difference between a genuine status signal and a manufactured one. Your brain is running ancient social comparison software on a dataset that was specifically engineered to manipulate it. And here's where it gets counterintuitive. Research from psychologist Sonia Lyubomirsky has shown that unhappy people engage in social comparison significantly more frequently than happy people. But the instinct to compare isn't the problem. Those circuits are always running. The difference lies in what unhappy people do with the output. They dwell on it, loop back through it, and let it compound into a narrative about their own inadequacy. What you do with the comparison matters far more than the fact that it happens. When you scroll through someone's highlight reel, you are not watching their life. You are watching a performance, a constructed, optimized, compressed version of their best moments, stripped of context, filtered for maximum social impact, and placed directly in front of the part of your brain that was built to extract meaning from social observation. Your brain receives this performance as raw social intelligence. It processes it the same way it would have processed real information gathered around an ancient fire. And it reaches conclusions. You are behind. They are ahead. Something is wrong with where you are. You feel that drop, that vague, hollow sense of inadequacy that is hard to name but impossible to ignore. And you blame yourself for feeling it. You tell yourself you should be above this, more secure, less shallow. You are not shallow. You are ancient. But the obsession with other people's lives goes even deeper than status comparison, because it isn't only about where you rank, it's about narrative. Psychologist Jerome Bruner spent decades studying how human beings organize experience, and his conclusion was striking. Humans don't think in facts, they think in stories. When your brain encounters information about another person's life, it doesn't file it as neutral data. It constructs a narrative. Who that person is, what kind of life they have, where they're headed, what it all means. And once your brain has begun building a story about someone else's life, it becomes cognitively invested in knowing what happens next. This is why you can't stop reading a novel that has grabbed you. And it is, at a neurological level, the exact same mechanism that makes you unable to stop thinking about what a particular person is doing with their life now. Your brain has opened a story, and it wants resolution. This also explains why gossip is universal. Every human culture on Earth, across every era of recorded history, in environments ranging from nomadic bands to ancient cities to modern suburbs, has produced gossip. It is not a character flaw unique to certain people or certain times. According to Robin Dunbar's research, humans spend between 60 and 65% of their conversation time discussing other people, their behaviors, relationships, reputations, and choices. This isn't trivial chatter. It is, Dunbar argues, one of the primary mechanisms through which humans have always built social bonds, transmitted social norms, and maintained group cohesion. Knowing that someone in your group had violated a trust, or gained unexpected resources, or was behaving in ways that might destabilize the group, this information was critical. Sharing it with allies was how you built coalitions, maintained your social position, and navigated a world where your relationships were the only real currency you had. Your brain still treats that information as critical. The platform has changed. The stakes, for most of us, are lower. But the hunger is identical, because it is structural. It is built into the architecture of the brain, not the circumstances of the environment. So, what does any of this mean for you right now? First, it means you are not defective. The compulsive interest in other people's lives, the inability to stop comparing, the stories you build about people you barely know, these are not pathologies to be ashamed of. They are the signature of a social brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. You are not broken. You are calibrated for an environment that no longer exists. Second, the solution is not suppression. You cannot turn off your social monitoring system any more than you can decide to stop digesting food. The default mode network will keep running. The comparisons will keep being made, automatically, below the level of conscious control. Trying to force yourself not to care what other people are doing is a battle your brain is physiologically designed to lose. What you can do, what research by psychologist Timothy Wilson on attention and emotional regulation consistently points toward, is change the input. Not by building a fake positive filter or pretending the comparisons aren't happening, but by deliberately choosing what you feed the social monitoring system. If you give it an endless stream of optimized performances, it will conclude, every day, that you are falling behind. If you redirect it toward real, reciprocal, textured human relationships, where you see the full picture, the good days and the difficult ones, it will do what it was always meant to do. It will help you understand people, navigate relationships, build genuine social intelligence. That is what it was built for. Your brain wants social information. It always will. It was built on that hunger. The question is not whether to feed it. The question is whether you're feeding it reality, or a simulation engineered to make you feel like you're losing a race you never agreed to enter. Somewhere right now, someone whose life looks effortless in a photo is sitting with anxiety you can't see, in a room that's messier than the frame shows, feeling some version of exactly what you feel. Your brain thinks it's sitting around the fire, reading the social landscape of your tribe. It thinks it's doing the most important work a human brain can do. It is being aimed at a screen. The most sophisticated social intelligence system in the known universe, capable of reading micro-expressions, modeling other minds, tracking relationship histories across years, navigating invisible coalitions, and shifting alliances in real time, is being pointed at content designed, with enormous precision, to exploit exactly those capabilities. That isn't a personal failure. That is the most consequential mismatch in the history of the human species. And the moment you see it clearly, the moment you recognize that the hollow feeling isn't evidence you're falling behind, but evidence that your ancient social brain is running a comparison algorithm on data it was never designed to evaluate, something real becomes possible. You opened the app without meaning to, but now you know exactly why. And that might be the only thing the algorithm was never designed to give you.